The family who rented my house paid the whole street to ignore the screaming. My grandfather's house has a voice. I didn't know that until I made the mistake of letting strangers live in it. Now, every night, I hear it, and I know I'll be listening to it until the day I die. It all started 5 years ago. He left me the house in his will, a big, drafty colonial at the end of a cul-de-sac that backed right up against the state forest. It was too much space for one person, too many rooms filled with the ghosts of my own childhood. Renting it out seemed like the smart move. I put a little ad in the town's free paper. My phone rang less than an hour later. The man's name was Marius. His voice was like warm honey, smooth and reassuring. He said he and his family had just moved to the area for a job, that he'd been driving around all morning looking for a place, and that my ad felt like a sign. He had a wife and 3 small children. They could pay the deposit and first month in cash right now. It felt like winning the lottery. When I met them on the porch that afternoon, they looked like a photograph from a church pamphlet. Marius had a handshake that could crush a rock and a smile that never quite reached his eyes. His wife Ligea was a whisper of a woman, pale and thin, who kept her gaze fixed on the peeling porch paint. And the kids, they stood in a perfect little line behind their father, 2 boys and a girl, so still and silent you could forget they were there. They seemed like the perfect tenants. God, what a fool I was. That perfection lasted exactly 1 month. The first rent payment appeared in the mailbox right on time, a thick manila envelope stuffed with crisp 20s. But when the next month rolled around, nothing. My calls went to voicemail. My texts went unanswered. I drove over and knocked, but the house remained silent, though I swear I saw the edge of a curtain fall back into place in the upstairs window. After a week of this, I caught Marius pulling into the driveway. The man who got out of the car wasn't the one I'd met. The warmth was gone, replaced by a flat, wolf-like watchfulness. He saw me, and his face hardened. He strode over, pushed a crumpled ball of cash into my hand, and turned to leave. His grip was cold and shockingly strong. "Marius, is everything okay?" I asked. "We're fine," he clipped, not turning around. The front door clicked shut behind him, leaving me standing on the lawn with a handful of wrinkled bills. The 3rd month was when my frustration boiled over into something else. I was done playing games. I decided I'd go over there after dark, catch them when they were all home, and tell them this little arrangement was over. I pulled up around 9. The sky was black, starless. The house was a dark shape against the deeper dark of the woods behind it. No car in the driveway. I sighed, figuring I'd just missed them. I cut my engine and decided to wait. The silence out here was different. It wasn't just an absence of noise, it felt heavy, like it was pressing in on the car. An hour crawled by. Then, a pair of headlights sliced through the darkness. It was a big, black van, the kind with no side windows. It pulled into the driveway and killed its lights. I leaned forward, ready to get out, but something made me hesitate. The driver's door slid open, and Marius emerged. But he was different. He was wearing a long, hooded robe of some coarse black material. It swallowed him, turning him into a featureless column of shadow. Then the passenger door opened, and Ligea stepped out, dressed in the exact same thing. From the back, the 3 children scurried out, 3 miniature, hooded figures. They moved without a sound toward the front door, a solemn, silent procession. No words, no laughter, just the whisper of cloth and the crunch of their feet on the gravel driveway. My heart was a frantic bird beating against my ribs. I slowly, carefully, pulled my car door shut, the click of the latch sounding like a cannon blast in the quiet night. I sank down in my seat, my breath fogging the glass until they were inside. The house stayed dark. A cult? The word felt cheap, like something from a bad movie. But the icy dread pouring through my veins was very, very real. I drove home on autopilot, deciding to handle it in the morning. Rationality, I told myself, comes with the sun. But the next evening, when I came back, the cul-de-sac was choked with cars. I had to park 2 streets over and walk. A steady stream of people, dozens of them, all in those same black hooded robes, were flowing into my grandfather's house. The air vibrated. It was a sound you felt more than you heard, a low, guttural chanting that seemed to come from the ground itself. A wave of physical revulsion washed over me. They were using my home, the place I learned to ride a bike, for this. I was too furious, and if I'm being honest, too fucking terrified to walk up there and confront a mob of them. I left, vowing I'd be back with an eviction notice first thing in the morning. When I returned, the silence was deafening. The front gate was swinging lazily in the breeze. The door was ajar. I pushed it open. Marius? The Gia? My voice died in the empty space. The house wasn't just empty of people. It was sterile, scoured. The hardwood floors were bare, the walls were blank. No furniture, no scuff marks, no lingering smell of food or life. It was as if they had never been here at all. The entire tenancy, the chanting, the robed figures, it felt like a hallucination. I checked the neighbors. Old Mr. Caspian, who lived 2 houses down, cracked his door open and peered at me with nervous, watery eyes. "The family in my house," I started. "Did you see them leave?" His gaze flickered past me to the empty house, then back to the floor. "Didn't see a thing. We keep to ourselves around here. But last night," I pressed, "all those people, the cars, can't help you," he mumbled and shut the door in my face. It was the fear in his eyes that got me. He was lying. They were all lying. A year went by. Life has a way of kicking you when you're down. My company downsized, my girlfriend left, and suddenly I was broke, single, and had nowhere to go. So I moved into my house, my grandfather's house. My grandfather's house. The first night, the silence was a physical weight. I lay in my old bed, listening to the house settle, trying to ignore the memories that clung to the walls. Sleep wouldn't come. And then, around 3 in the morning, I heard it. A giggle. It was a little girl's giggle, faint, coming from the bottom of the stairs. But it sounded wrong. Tinny and distorted, like it was being played through a broken radio. My blood turned to ice. I grabbed the mag light from my nightstand and crept out of the bedroom, my heart slamming against my ribs. As I reached the top of the stairs, the giggling stopped, and a new sound started, a wet, choking sound, coming from inside my closet right behind me. I spun around, flashlight beam cutting a frantic path through the darkness. The closet door was closed. The hallway was empty. But the sound, it was so close. The sound of someone desperately trying to draw breath through a throat full of water. I didn't go back in the bedroom. I spent what was left of the night huddled on the living room sofa, jumping at every creak and groan of the old house. Just as I started to drift into an exhausted daze, I felt it. A small, cold pressure against my hand, like a child had slipped their fingers into mine. I ripped my hand away with a strangled yell, scrambling to the other side of the room, my entire body trembling. There was nothing there. The next day, I was outside, trying to get my piece of shit car started, when Mr. Caspian shuffled over from his yard. He looked like he'd aged 10 years. "Saw you moved in," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "Maybe I could come by tonight. We should talk." That evening, he sat on my porch steps, turning a beer can over and over in his hands. He took a long, shaky swallow before he spoke. "I owe you an apology," he said, his eyes fixed on the setting sun, "and an explanation. They paid us, all of us." Marius came around the day after they moved in, gave me a stack of cash, told me to give everyone on the street a share, and to tell them that his family practiced a private faith, that we should not be alarmed by their gatherings, and that our discretion would be rewarded. "Why?" I asked, my voice hoarse. He took another drink. "The last night they were here. The chanting, it was different, louder, angrier, and then it stopped. And we heard a shriek." He shuddered, a full-body tremor. "I've heard people scream before, in pain, in fear. This wasn't that. It was thin and high and horrible. It sounded like an instrument string snapping in a silent room. And then, nothing." He stared at me, his eyes wide with a terror that hadn't faded with time. We all came out onto our porches. A few minutes later, the people in the robes started leaving in a hurry. Marius saw me watching. He walked right over, calm as could be, and pressed another thick wad of cash into my hand. He said, "Our observance required a sacrifice, Please ensure your neighbors are compensated for the disturbance." And then he got in his van and drove away. After he left, his words echoed in the crushing silence. A sacrifice. That night was worse. The giggling was back, but this time it was right outside my bedroom door. The wet, choking sound came from under my bed. As I lay there, paralyzed, I caught a flicker of movement in the dark screen of the TV, a reflection that wasn't mine. It was a woman, tall and gaunt, standing in the corner of the room. Her head was tilted, her neck bent at an angle that was sickeningly, impossibly wrong. The breaking point came the next morning. I remembered an old tool shed in the backyard my grandfather had always kept locked. Maybe there were jumper cables. The padlock was rusted solid, but one hard yank with a crowbar and it snapped. The smell hit me first, a thick, sweet stench of decay mixed with something else, rust and old honey. I gagged, pulling my shirt over my face as I peered into the gloom. In the back corner, under a pile of rotting canvas, was a large plastic storage tote. My hands were shaking as I lifted the lid. It wasn't what I expected. There was a woman's blouse, torn at the collar, and coiled on top of it like a dead snake was a single, long braid of thick, dark hair. It was tied with a simple leather cord, but the whole thing was matted and stiff, with a black, tar-like substance that I knew, somehow, was old blood. Beneath it, at the very bottom of the bin, was a single, child-sized black robe. And next to it, a small, crudely carved wooden bird, smeared with the same black shit. I stumbled out of the shed and threw up in the weeds. I called the police. I told them I'd found evidence of something, a crime. 2 officers showed up an hour later. They looked bored. They glanced in the bin, shined a flashlight on the braid. "Looks like someone dumped some old clothes and maybe hit a raccoon, pal," the older one said with a sigh. "We'll have sanitation pick it up. Don't worry about it." They took the bin, and that was it. Case closed. I was alone. Getting rid of the bin didn't get rid of it. The giggling is more frequent now. Sometimes I hear it right behind my ear. The choking sound follows me from room to room, and the reflection in the dark screens. She's still there. But now, sometimes, she smiles. They didn't kill someone in this house. My neighbor was wrong. You kill something to make it stop. They did something else here. They didn't end a life. They started one. And it's still here, in the walls, in the shadows, waiting. And I'm the only one here to listen.